I want you to start by visualizing a map of the world.
Yeah.
So clear your mind for a second and picture the globe.
Okay.
You've got the continents, the oceans, all the borders we've drawn over the centuries. Now, I want you to overlay that physical map with a heat map of religion and really zoom in. If you look at Mumbai, who do you find? Overwhelmingly, you find Hindus.
Yeah.
If you zoom in on, say, Alabama or the Vatican, you're finding Christians, Tehran, Muslims, Bangkok.
Buddhists. It's almost entirely predictable.
It's predictable. And when you look at the world that way, faith doesn't necessarily look like some, metaphysical truth that descended from the heavens. It looks geographic.
Yes, it looks like an accident of geography.
It looks like a map of borders, not a map of reality.
It's striking when you visualize it that way. It's what sociologists and certainly the skeptics call the birthplace lottery.
Exactly, the birthplace lottery. And we have to be honest here. This is the steelman argument for atheism. This isn't a weak point. This is where people like Richard Dawkins or the late Christopher Hitchens really sharpen their knives.
They really do. It's their opening salvo almost every time.
It is. They look at this map and they say, hold on a second. If faith is the single most important thing in the universe, if we are talking about the stakes of eternal salvation versus damnation, why does the distribution of truth look exactly like a contagion map?
Like a virus spreading from person to person.
Precisely. Why is the one true religion always, coincidentally, the one your parents happen to follow?
It is a devastating critique if you don't have a framework to answer it. It implies that what we deeply feel is divine truth is actually just cultural conditioning.
Right.
It suggests we're just echoing the zip code we were born in. If you were born in a different hospital, in a different country, you would likely be praying to a different God with the exact same conviction you have now.
And that conviction feels so real, so personal. But the data suggests it's a product of your environment.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
And it leads to this darker concept we found in the source material, the cosmic cruel trick.
That's a heavy phrase.
It is. If there is a singular loving God who wants to be known, why is the truth distributed so unevenly? Why is there this fragmented mosaic of competing doctrines? You look at the world and you don't hear one clear voice from the heavens. You hear a cacophony.
A total cacophony.
Yeah.
1,000 different prayers in 1,000 different languages, all claiming to be the absolute exclusive truth.
And they can't all be right.
And logically, as we will get into, they cannot all be right.
Exactly. So the question we are wrestling with in this deep dive is a heavy one. Is religion just a human construct? Is it just a byproduct of where we were born?
Is it all just a story we tell ourselves?
Or, and this is the pivot that makes the source material so interesting, is that chaos actually a design feature?
That is the entire thesis of the book we're analyzing today. The Quran and Atheism by J.R. Ahmed. Specifically, we're looking at the chapters on religious diversity. And the argument here is bold because it doesn't deny the chaos. It admits the map looks fragmented.
It leans into the problem.
It leans right into it. But it argues that if you change your focal length, what looks like a mess is actually a system of calibration by a sovereign intelligence.
Sovereign intelligence. I highlighted that term in the notes. It implies a very specific type of intent. It suggests that the messiness isn't an accident, but an architecture.
It does. It implies a grand design behind what looks, on the surface, like total randomness. And to understand it, we have to move away from the idea of religion as a static fortress.
And start thinking more dynamically.
And start thinking in terms of deep-sea navigation. We're going to use an analogy that anchors this entire deep dive, the ocean and the vessel.
I'm ready. We have the skeptics, we have the map, and we have a rebuttal. Let's get into the specifics.
Let's do it.
But before we get to the solution, though, I want to make sure we aren't shortchanging the problem. We can't strawman the atheist position here because, honestly, their arsenal is pretty heavy.
It's intellectually robust.
Yeah.
You have to give it that.
You do. So when we talk about the kaleidoscope of faith or this idea of the cacophony, what are we actually looking at from a philosophical perspective? Because it's not just that people wear different hats.
No, it's much, much deeper than aesthetics. We are looking at what philosophers call the problem of contradictory truth claims.
Okay.
This is the bread and butter of the philosophy of religion. It's not just that people dress differently or eat different foods. Those are superficial. It's that the core claims about reality, about the very nature of existence, are fundamentally incompatible.
Give us the breakdown. Where's the friction?
Well, just look at the nature of God himself. It's the most basic question.
Right.
Monotheism says there is one distinct personal God who created the universe but is separate from it. Polytheism says there is a pantheon of gods, often competing with different domains of influence.
Like the Greek gods, always squabbling.
Exactly. And then you have pantheism, which says God is the universe itself, that the chair you're sitting on is God, the tree is God, everything is divine.
So logically, these can't all be true at the same time.
They just can't. God cannot be simultaneously one distinct entity and also 1,000 distinct entities and also identical to the fabric of the universe. It breaks the law of non-contradiction.
It's a zero-sum game logic. A does not equal B. If the universe is God, then a creator separate from the universe doesn't exist. It's one or the other.
Precisely. And it goes deeper into the narrative, the big stories we tell. The Genesis creation story with its 7 days is completely different from Hindu cosmology with its cycles of yugas lasting millions of years.
Or the Big Bang, for that matter.
Or the Big Bang. But even within the religious frameworks, the stories don't line up. And then you get to the path to salvation, which is even more divergent.
This is the really critical part, right? How you get saved.
It is. Christianity, in most forms, emphasizes faith in the vicarious atonement of Christ, that you are saved through belief in his sacrifice. Islam emphasizes submission to Allah and adherence to the law, so it's faith plus action. Buddhism is something else entirely. It emphasizes enlightenment and breaking the cycle of rebirth of samsara.
So it's not even about a god in the same way, it's about escaping the system.
Exactly. These aren't just different flavors of ice cream. They are different directions on a compass. They are pointing to completely different destinations.
And that's where the skeptic steps in and says, look at this chaos. If God is real and God is hiding behind this mess, is he indifferent? Is he a bad communicator? Or is he just not there?
And that's the problem of hiddenness. It's a powerful emotional argument as well as a logical one. If you have a relationship with someone, you don't hide behind 1,000 masks.
You don't speak in riddles when their life is on the line.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And this isn't a new critique. The source highlights David Hume back in the 18th century. Hume was the ultimate empiricist. He was all about the data.
What you can see and measure.
Exactly. And he looked at the world and said, essentially, we cannot infer a specific divine nature from this chaotic world. If the data is messy, the source must be messy or non-existent.
It's like looking at a crime scene where every single witness gives a completely different description of the suspect.
That's a great analogy.
One says he was tall, one says short, one says he had a hat, one says he was bald. The detective eventually concludes there might not be a suspect at all. Maybe everyone is just hallucinating.
That's a perfect way to put it. The data is so contradictory that you have to start questioning the premise itself. And then you have Ludwig Feuerbach in the 19th century. I found this part of the notes really compelling because it feels so modern, like modern psychology.
His big phrase, right? Theology is anthropology.
Yes, theology is anthropology. That is such a sticky phrase. It just gets in your head.
It does. So break that down for us. What did he mean by that?
Feuerbach is essential here. He came up with what's called the projection theory. He argued that we humans have these deep, profound needs. Needs for love, for justice, for order, for protection.
The things we want most out of life.
Yes. And because we don't always find them on Earth, because life is hard and often unfair, we project them onto the sky. We invent a God who is just a perfect version of ourselves or a perfect solution to our problems.
So if I'm living in a brutal Viking society where survival depends on war and strength, I project a warrior god like Odin or Thor.
Exactly.
But if I'm in a peaceful agrarian culture where my biggest worry is whether the rains will come for my crops, I project a fertility god.
Precisely. Feuerbach would say that as the culture changes, the projection changes. Yeah. From an atheist perspective, this explains religious diversity perfectly.
It's a neat and tidy explanation.
It is. Why are there so many religions? Because there are so many cultures with different psychological needs. We aren't discovering God. We are inventing him to comfort ourselves. It's not a window into reality. It's a mirror reflecting our own faces.
Which brings us right back to the modern day. The new atheists. Dawkins standing on stage asking, which God? The God of Abraham? Zeus? The flying spaghetti monster? You have to choose.
That famous question. It's a rhetorical weapon.
It is. And Hitchens talking about the very real violence caused by these conflicting absolute truths, people killing each other over which projection is the real one. They see religion as a cafeteria where we just shop for what fits our emotional needs.
The cafeteria of beliefs.
And honestly, when you look at how people actually practice religion, they aren't entirely wrong, are they? People do shop around.
They do. We absolutely treat faith like a consumer product. I like the community here, but I prefer the music there. This pastor is more inspiring than that one.
I'll take the bits about forgiveness, but I'll leave the parts about judgment.
Exactly. And that just connects right back to the birthplace lottery we started with. If I can predict your religion based on your zip code, it strongly suggests that your faith is a social construct, not a divine revelation. That is a hurdle the Quranic worldview has to clear.
It's a massive hurdle.
It has to explain why, if there is only one truth. The world is full of so many different conflicting truths.
So how does this source material, this Quranic perspective, answer that without just resorting to dogmatism? How does it explain the mess without denying it? Because usually the religious answer is just, well, the devil confused everyone else and we are the lucky ones who got it right.
Which is not a very satisfying intellectual answer.
No. But this source seems to be arguing something more structural, more elegant even.
It is. It does it by completely redefining what we even mean by diversity. It stops looking at the differences as accidents or mistakes and starts looking at them as tools. And this is where we need to bring in that seafaring analogy we teased.
Lay it on me. The ocean and the vessel.
Okay, so I want you to imagine the ultimate truth. The singular, objective reality of the divine is a vast, deep, unchanging ocean.
Right.
It is one body of water. It has the same physics, the same chemical composition, the same depth. Everywhere you go, it connects all the continents. It's the one reality we all share.
Okay. The ocean is God, or the reality of God. It's the substrate of existence. I'm with you.
Right. Now imagine the different religious systems, the laws, the rituals, the social structures that we see throughout history as vessels,
Yes.
as ships.
Okay, so the religion is the boat, Christianity is a boat, Judaism is a boat, Islam is a boat.
Exactly. Now the Quran makes a very crucial distinction here, one that often gets lost in translation and in, frankly, cable news debates.
Yeah.
It distinguishes between din and Shari'ah.
I see these terms used interchangeably a lot, usually with scary music playing in the background, but in the theology they mean very different things. So break them down for us.
Din is the universal. It refers to the essential submission to the Creator. It's the core truth. The source argues that from Adam to Noah to Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, the din has never changed.
The ocean has never changed.
The ocean has never changed. It has always been the same core message. Worship the one Creator. Be moral and recognize there is accountability for your actions. That is the ocean. It is immutable. It doesn't change based on time or place.
So the core message, the destination, is identical. Abraham and Jesus were, in this view, teaching the exact same core theology.
The core destination and the core water are identical. But then you have Shari'ah and Minhaj.
Okay, the other terms.
Shari'ah literally means the path to water. It's the law. Minhaj means the method or the way. These are the vessels. And the source argues that these must change.
Why must they change? That's the part I don't get. If the truth is one, why isn't the law one? Why not have one boat for everyone?
Think about the ship analogy. If you are navigating a calm, shallow coast in 2000 BC with a small crew of, say, desert nomads, you need a different hull design than if you were navigating the deep, stormy Atlantic in a barrel tannic in 1000 AD with a crew of established city dwellers.
The conditions are different?
The conditions are completely different. The source explains that God tailored the hull design, the specific rituals, the dietary laws, the social codes to fit the specific maturity, sociology, and climate of specific peoples in specific eras.
That is a really helpful way to visualize it. So a seafaring culture needs different tools than an agrarian one. A society that is just forming needs different laws than a society that has been established for 1,000 years.
Right. It's divine pedagogy. You don't give calculus to a first grader.
So it's not that the ocean changed. It's that the boat had to be optimized for the crew and the journey at that particular time.
Exactly. The Quran references this directly in Surah 5, verse 48. It says, "To each of you we prescribed a law and a method." It explicitly admits that the forms are different. It's not hiding the diversity, it's owning it.
It's stating it as a fact of the design.
Yes. But then it says something profound. If Allah had willed, he could have made you one nation.
So uniformity was an option. God could have just made us all robots programmed with the same software. One giant super ship for all humanity.
It was an option, but it was rejected by the divine architect. And the verse explains why. It continues. But he wills to test you in what he has given you. So compete in good deeds.
A competition in goodness. Wow, that changes the framing entirely. It's not a mistake, it's a tournament.
Yes. The argument here is teleological, meaning it deals with purpose. If everyone was on one giant super ship, there would be stagnation. There would be no incentive to improve.
Like monopolies in economics.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
When there was only one company, innovation dies. Service gets bad. By creating a fleet of different vessels, you create a dynamic system. You force a competition in ethics.
So it's not about whose ship is prettier. It's
about which community treats its poor better, which community fosters more justice, which one builds a more compassionate society. Diversity prevents the monopoly of a single stagnant power structure.
It's like a marketplace of ethics. If there's only one shop in town, the service gets terrible. If there are competing visions of the good life, you have to actually demonstrate that your way works. You have to prove it with your actions.
In a way, yes. And there was another verse the source highlights from Surah 49. We made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another.
Know one another. That sounds almost romantic.
It is profound. The Arabic word used there, taruf, implies deep recognition or empathy. It's not just know about each other like reading a Wikipedia page. It's to become intimate with each other's humanity.
So the existence of the other isn't a bug in the system.
It's a feature. It's designed to force us out of our solipsism, our tribal bubbles. If everyone looked like me and thought like me and prayed like me, I would never have to stretch my mind. I would never have to develop empathy.
You just stay in your comfort zone forever.
You would. We have to look across the water at the other ship and recognize the humanity there, even if their boat looks different. The diversity is the test mechanism for empathy.
Okay. I see the beauty in that. I really do. It frames diversity not as a mistake, but as a syllabus, a curriculum for human growth. But I have to play the skeptic again.
Please do. That's why we're here.
That sounds lovely in theory. A fleet of ships sailing together, competing to be the nicest. But if you look at history and if you look at the news today, these ships aren't sailing in formation.
No, they're not.
They are ramming into each other. They are firing cannons. They are boarding and sinking each other. We have the Crusades, the Inquisition, ISIS, sectarian violence in almost every corner of the globe. If the fleet is designed by God, why is there so much wreckage? Why is the history of religion so often a history of war?
That is the million-dollar question. And the source material addresses this head-on. It doesn't shy away from it. It shifts the blame from the divine blueprints to the human construction.
This is section 3 in our notes. The source of discord. Spiritual barnacles. I love that imagery.
Right. The Quranic narrative is that the conflict doesn't come from the ocean. Remember, the ocean is one. It doesn't even come from the different legitimate designs of the vessels, Shari'ah, because those were tailored for their times. The conflict comes from leaky vessels caused by human interference.
What kind of interference? Are we talking about simple misinterpretation, like, oops, I read the map wrong?
It's often portrayed that way as a good faith mistake. But the Quran argues it's more active and malicious than just a misunderstanding. The source lists specific mechanisms of corruption. The first is tampering, or tarif.
Okay.
Surah 2, verse 79 says, "Woe to those who write the book with their own hands, then say, this is from Allah, in order to exchange it for a small price."
Write the book with their own hands. So that's just straight up forgery, people adding things to the divine text for worldly game power, money control.
Exactly. Imagine a captain of one of these ships realizing that if he changes the map slightly, he can steer the ship toward his own private island instead of the original destination.
He enriches himself.
He tampers with the logbook, he changes the coordinates, and he does it for a small price. Maybe political power, maybe wealth, maybe just the ego boost of being in charge.
Then you have the next one, concealment.
Yes. Surah 2.159 speaks of those who hide the map. This refers to religious authorities who know the truth, or parts of it, but keep it from the masses to maintain their own status and control.
It's gatekeeping. You can't talk to God directly. You have to go through me. And I'm only going to tell you the parts of the message that keep me in charge.
Exactly that. It creates a dependency. And then, perhaps most relevant to our barnacle analogy, is innovation. The source points to Surah 42.21. This refers to unauthorized rituals, superstitions, and cultural habits that get tacked on to the religion over centuries.
So that's the theology is anthropology part again, isn't it? But viewed from inside the system.
It is, but from a completely different angle.
Mm-hmm.
Feuerbach thought all religion was projection. The Quran argues that parts of what we call religion are indeed human projection barnacles attached to the hull, but that underneath all that gunk there is a real divinely designed ship.
So over 1,000 years, a religion picks up cultural baggage, maybe a local superstition about black cats or a political hierarchy that just happens to mirror the local king's court.
Yes.
And eventually those things get glued onto the religion so tightly that people think they are the religion.
Precisely. They can't tell the difference between the ship and the barnacles. Those are the barnacles. And what do barnacles do to a ship?
They create drag. They slow it down. They make it hard to steer.
They corrupt its hydrodynamics, they weigh it down,
Mhm.
and the source argues this is what has happened to many religious traditions.
And there's one more mechanism here. Leader worship.
Right. Surah 9.31, they have taken their scholars and their monks as lords besides God. This is elevating human interpretation to the status of divine, infallible truth. When a priest or a scholar says something, it's treated as if God himself said it.
Which gives them immense power.
Immense power.
Ugh.
And it adds yet another layer of barnacles. Every new ruling, every new tradition just adds more weight and more drag.
So the cacophony we talked about in the intro, the conflicting noises, the messy map, the violence, that's not the voice of God. That's the noise of the barnacles scraping against each other. That's the noise of human distortion.
Precisely. The problem of hiddenness isn't that God is absent. It's that humans have covered the hull of the ship with so much debris that you can't see the original shape anymore. And when you have that much drag, that much distortion, the ships stop sailing straight. They drift.
And when they drift, they collide.
They collide. The wars, the sectarianism, that is the sound of ships crashing into each other because they've lost their ability to navigate the ocean. They've forgotten what they were originally built for.
So we have a fleet that's gone off course because the crews have been messing with the navigation systems and gluing stuff to the hull. That leaves us in a pretty precarious position. If I'm on a ship that's covered in barnacles and spinning in circles, how do I even know?
That's the key question.
How do we get back to the ocean? Because everyone thinks their barnacles are part of the boat. They've been there for centuries.
This brings us to this system of calibration. This is where the source introduces the specific function of the Quran in this worldview. It's described by a specific term.
Muhaimin.
Muhaimin. That's a term I haven't heard often. What does it translate to? It has a few shades of meaning. It can translate to the guardian, the watcher, or maybe most usefully for our discussion, the criterion.
A standard of measurement.
Think of it as a tuning fork, or, sticking to our analogy, a master chart, a final corrected map sent out to the fleet.
Okay, a master chart. So what does it do?
The source explains that the Quran isn't just another ship added to the fleet. Its specific historical mission was to be a standard of calibration. It came to filter out the human additions from the divine originals.
So it's a filter. It's a quality control mechanism.
Yes. It looks at the other vessels, Christianity, Judaism, the previous traditions, and it says, okay, let's audit this ship, this part here, the 10 Commandments, helping the poor, recognizing one God. That's the original hull. That's divine. Keep that. That's part of the din.
Right.
But this part here, this doctrine of the Trinity, this complex priesthood structure, this idea that God had a son, those are barnacles. Those are human innovations. Scrape them off.
That's a bold claim. It's claiming to be the final editor of the other faiths. It's acknowledging they have truth, but claiming they have been corrupted and it has the key to fix them.
It is an incredibly bold claim. And that's the Quranic argument for its own existence. It claims to restore the original ocean perspective, Tawhid, the absolute oneness of God, which it argues had been obscured by the polytheistic barnacles of human culture and philosophy.
So it's not saying we're bringing a new God.
It's saying we are stripping away the layers you put on the old God, the God of Abraham that we all supposedly share.
So the return we hear about isn't just about dying and going to heaven.
No. The verse, he will inform you about that over which you used to differ, implies an intellectual return, here and now. The goal is to return to the pure message, to scrape the hull clean.
This leads to what the source calls principled pluralism. I want to dig into that term because pluralism usually means everything is equally true. The all roads lead to Rome idea.
Right, which is the hallmark of modern liberal theology. It doesn't matter what you believe as long as you're a good person.
Yeah, that kind of feel-good sentiment.
The Quranic view is very different. It's not saying all maps are equally valid in their current form. It's saying all peoples were given a map, but many of those maps have been altered over time.
That distinction is crucial. It changes everything.
It is. So we accept diversity as a sociological reality. We treat people with respect. We coexist. We protect the right of others to sail their ships in peace. That's a core principle. But we don't say all paths are subjectively equal in their current state.
So you can respect the sailor without agreeing that their map is accurate.
Exactly. The position is all paths were meant to sail the same ocean, and we must use the standard, the Muhaimin, the final chart, to see who is actually still on course.
It's so nuanced. It avoids the two extremes. It avoids the extreme of kill everyone who isn't us because diversity is divinely ordained. It's a test, a feature.
Right.
But it also avoids the other extreme of whatever you believe is fine, it doesn't matter, because there is an objective truth, an ocean that we are all being measured against.
Exactly. It respects the seeker, but it demands that the seeking be rigorous. It demands that we scrape off the barnacles from our own ships, first and foremost. It's an intellectual and spiritual challenge.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most fascinating part of this deep dive. We've talked about the ships, the ocean, the barnacles, but what about the compass?
Ah, yes.
What is going on inside the captain's head? Inside every human's head? Because all of this assumes humans even want to find the truth, that they have some tool to do it.
This is where we pivot to sovereign intelligence.
Yeah.
And the concept of fitrah. This is the deep psychological dimension of the argument.
Fitrah, we hear this word a lot in Islamic theology, usually translated as primordial nature or something like that, but let's define it very clearly in this context.
The source describes fitrah as the law of origination, or, my favorite phrasing from the notes, the first digging.
The first digging. That sounds almost archaeological, like digging into the soul.
It is. Imagine that before you were born, before you were socialized by your parents or your culture or your geography, a foundation was dug into your soul. A functional design was imprinted on you. It's like a pre-installed software.
Okay, so we aren't born as blank slates then.
Not according to this worldview. We talked earlier about the evolutionary psychology argument, HADD, the hyperactive agency detection device.
Right, the idea that our brains are just wired to spot patterns so we accidentally invent God because it was a good survival strategy.
Yes, we hear a rustle in the bushes, we think it's a tiger. Better safe than sorry. We apply that same paranoid logic to the entire universe and think God. It's a survival mechanism that misfires. That's the standard atheist explanation for why religion is a universal human phenomenon.
It's a glitch in our cognitive wiring.
The Quranic perspective completely flips that. It agrees that we are wired to find God, but it argues that this isn't a glitch, it's an engine of reason. It is a specific faculty designed to recognize the master of the system.
So it's not a bias, it's an antenna. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
It's a compass. The argument is that true faith isn't about emotional comfort. That's the Feuerbach projection theory. True faith, according to the source, is the rational recognition of a moral and physical order. It's recognizing cause and effect on a cosmic scale.
Cause and effect. Explain that.
The source quotes Surah 99. So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it.
Okay.
The implication is that the universe has a moral physics just like it has quantum physics. There are consequences. There's an order. The fitrah is the part of your intellect that looks at this incredibly complex ordered system and recognizes this system has an architect. This law has a lawgiver.
So when the Quran argues for monotheism, for Tawhid, it's not just saying my God is better than yours. It's arguing for a logical necessity.
Yes. This is the logic of oneness. The source discusses Surah Al-Ikhlas. He is God the One, and there is no equivalent to him. The argument is that if you have multiple gods, polytheism, you have a broken equation. You have logical chaos.
Right, we mentioned it earlier. If you have a rain god who wants it to rain, and a sun god who wants it to be sunny, who wins?
Exactly. If there are two omnipotent gods, neither is truly omnipotent. If they disagree, the universe breaks. If they always agree, then one of them is redundant. So the Quran asserts that the human intellect, the fitrah, is structurally designed to perceive one source, a single unified cause.
And anything else is a deviation from that factory setting.
It is. Anything else, polytheism, idolatry, even atheism, is described by the Arabic term kuf.
Kuf. That's usually translated as disbelief or infidelity, and it sounds very harsh.
It does, but the etymology is fascinating and it changes everything. Kuf literally means to cover.
To cover.
Like a farmer covering a seed with soil. The seed is there, but you put a layer over it.
Wow. That changes the implication entirely. It's not about being evil or stupid.
It's not. It means to cover up the truth, to cover up your own nature. It suggests that deep down, beneath the culture, beneath the geography, beneath the birthplace lottery, every human being has this compass, this fitrah, that knows the ocean is there. We just cover it up.
We cover it with our own noise, our own distractions, our own barnacles.
Our ideologies, our egos, our cultural conditioning. We actively, though perhaps subconsciously, cover that innate recognition.
That is a lot to process. It really reframes the whole conversation. We started with the idea that religion is just a roll of the dice. You're born in Mumbai, you're Hindu, it looks like a total accident.
It looks like pure chaos.
But we've moved to a view where that diversity is a deliberate test environment, a competition in goodness, a curriculum for empathy.
Right, that feature, not a bug.
And the conflict, the ugliness we see, that's not God's fault. That's not a design flaw in the system. That's us. That's the barnacles. That's the human tampering and the ego.
And the solution isn't to abandon the ship because it's leaky. It's to get to work calibrating it, to use the watcher, the final revelation, to clean the hull and get back to navigating the ocean.
It's a move from chaos to design, from the cacophony of faith to a sovereign intelligence.
And it puts the responsibility squarely back on us, the individual. It's not enough to just inherit the ship of our ancestors and sail it blindly.
You have to be an active participant.
You have to inspect the hull. You have to check the map. You have to constantly ask, is this practice divine, or is it just something my grandfather added because it was a cultural tradition? It demands constant intellectual vigilance.
It reminds me of that final provocative thought we wanted to leave the listener with.
Yes, it brings it all home.
We often sit back and we ask, why doesn't God speak more clearly? Why is he so hidden behind all these confusing religions? We blame the signal. We say the signal is weak or it's distorted.
It's the problem of hiddenness all over again.
But maybe the problem isn't the signal.
Maybe the problem is the receiver. Maybe the signal is perfectly clear, but our own receivers are covered in static. So the question becomes, if you could strip away the culture, the geography, the history, if you could take away the birthplace lottery and just silence all that noise for a moment, what does your internal compass, your Fitrah, actually point to?
What does the compass point to when there's no magnetic interference? That is the ultimate question.
Exactly. And that is a question only you, the listener, can answer for yourself in the quiet of your own mind.
That is where we're going to leave it for this deep dive. A huge thank you to J.R. Ahmed's work for guiding us through these very deep waters. This has been one of our denser episodes, but I think it was absolutely worth it.
It's been a fascinating journey. I hope it helps people see the map and perhaps their own place on it a little differently.
And to you, the listener, whether you're navigating calm seas or a storm right now, keep checking that compass. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Take care.